So, guys, you heard it for your.
Blow it out, blow it out.
What's up, guys? It's 3 or 4 Techman here. Today we have my boy Colton. Many of you may know him from the hovercraft video. He's quite the rascal, quite the man. So I'm excited to have him here to talk engineering, talk about life, some cool things. Cool. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do a little background on kind of your end of high school into college, maybe why you picked engineering, if you always thought you were going to go into engineering, that kind of stuff.
Starting out, I could probably say like since second grade is when like math started sticking out to me.
Second grade, that early?
Yeah, so I had a really involved teacher, and we used to play like around the world with flashcards for math.
Okay.
And I had like a really good friend in there, and we were super competitive. So I got really, I guess, enticed with learning because of the competitiveness that the teacher kind of imposed into the classroom. And
so competitive learning.
Oh, it was 100%. It's something that you couldn't do now because people get upset. And there were kids in our class that got really upset about it.
Yeah.
But from that class, I started getting like more and more involved with like learning in general. And I got selected to be in what West Virginia has, a talented and gifted program.
Yep.
And I went in and took the test.
Wait, you were in that?
Yeah.
Bro, I missed it by 1 point. One question I missed it by.
I
took it in first grade. I missed it by 1 point.
I took it in third grade. Second grade is where they saw it and they wanted to see how I did the rest of the year. And then in third grade, I went through it, went in and actually got tested and got into it. It's kind of funny though, because like that correlated with like some personal like family stuff. Like my parents got a divorce in third grade too. So anybody that says like that it's that big of a challenge on them, honestly is getting too. They're getting too involved with like their parents' endeavors rather than their own.
Gotcha.
But anyways, but going back in, I was placed in there, and from then on, I actually didn't want to be an engineer. I wanted to be an archaeologist. Because
really?
yeah. I wanted to.
So you wanted to look at bones all day?
Yeah, I was really into like all the like digging and like looking for stuff. Like
I see you digging around your backyard.
Yeah, I used to like carve into trees and think like I was finding stuff. Like it was so silly. But and I got another. I don't mean I sound like I'm bragging, but like I got a certificate from the Lions Club. Like it's the something of learning, whatever. It was something to do with like having like a want to learn, and I got it in middle school. And for that, I wrote down what I wanted to be, and my history teacher looked at me, and I wrote down archaeologist, and she goes, "Do you want to be an archaeologist?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "You can't do that."
It's really.
I swear, she looked at me. She she goes, "You can't do that." She goes, "You know what you do?" She goes, all you do is read and read and read. And the field work doesn't really come until later on in your career when you understand everything. Because, I mean, to be an archaeologist, you have to have a huge understanding of culture, which in reality, I didn't understand at that point. And it's funny because at the time I was like, it didn't hurt my feelings at all. I was like, fuck. I was like, I don't read.
So you didn't think much about it?
No.
Like you just kind of listened to her?
Yeah, she told me that. And I knew that she wasn't coming off like as somebody that
intentionally or anything.
Yeah. She knew me. She had me. This is like the third year that she taught me. And she honestly knew what I was. And I was a hyperactive kid that was interested in. Yeah. Especially in middle school. Really, a lot of energy, no focus. And she saw how I learned. I didn't learn by listening to her in class. I learned by
hands-on.
Like it was like right before a test, I could look over everything for a test and get an A on it. Wow. But that's how I learned. I wasn't a reader. I wasn't a studier. It was something I could cram and then get and then regurgitate and then it'd be gone. So definitely not that. And that's where I kind of like started exploring like different ideas about like what I wanted to do with my life. And I landed on civil engineering. So what I decided to do after she told me that was go into architecture because I love to draw. So for about, probably until halfway through my junior year of high school, I was set on being an architect. I used to buy like the floor plan books that you can get at the store with like regular floor plans, and then customize it based on people's actual needs and wants. And I used to do that all the time for like everybody. And then I draw the interior of the house and the exterior of the house. And that's all I used to do, like for fun. But I did a little bit of research on what exactly entails being an architect and the happiness of architects, because that's one thing I was always focused on, is being happy in my career. And it was one of the lowest paying jobs in this area, and one of the most disliked jobs in this area. Like the like employee happiness was extremely low. So I was like, well, shoot, I still
might want to reconsider.
I was like, I still want to build stuff, because I come from, like, my dad's owned a contracting company since I was born.
So you've always been around construction and that kind of stuff, yeah?
Always. Okay. That's like, anytime my dad would be on a big job, he'd bring home like scrap wood, and I'd build stuff out of it.
Gotcha.
So I was like, shoot, I still want to build stuff, but I want to make money and I want to be happy, and that's where engineering came in. I was like, all right, so what am I good at? I was like, I'm good at math, kind of good at drawing, and I want to build things. And I was like, At this point, my conception on civil engineering was that they actually did schematical drawings and things like that architecture did, but just for more of like public buildings.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's do it. And I decided to go into that, and that's what I entered WVU in. And I got more of an understanding about what civil engineering actually is. And
so you came in as a civil freshman year?
Yeah. And I ended up doing an internship my freshman year summer.
That's pretty cool. Not a lot. I guess it's a tough. A lot of times it's tough to get that internship after your freshman year.
Yeah. So I actually had pretty good way of getting in. My girlfriend at the time, her soon-to-be brother-in-law, was an engineer at this company, and he had also done internships there.
Very cool.
And they were a company from home, and they were doing a huge job, and they needed interns. And I was like, I will do anything. I was like, I will do anything. I need something to put on my resume. Just
need some money.
I need money.
Yep.
And so I went and worked. It was the worst experience of my entire life.
Wow.
I was not an intern. I'll put it that way. I was an
errand boy, working in construction.
I was a shop hand for like a month.
Yep.
And a way underpaid shop hand than everybody else. And I did all the grunt work. I spent 3 days weed eating a bank that was at like this.
Sounds like manual labor, man.
It was nothing but manual labor. And I kept bugging them to put me onto a job because I wasn't learning anything. I was like, I want to learn something. Would you please put me somewhere? And it took about a month before they were like, all right, we'll put you somewhere. And they put me on the I-79 design build, where they built the bridge from the University Town Center over.
Yep.
And I worked directly under the project engineer there. He was a West Virginia graduate, civil engineering, so it seemed like a perfect fit, and I was pretty pumped about it. And when I got there, I saw what he did, and he was great guy, very good mentor. Yep. Extremely stressed out. He was thrown into the fire. He was new into basically everything, and when his day-to-day activities were not something that I saw as my life. So after
that's
that,
pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, like,
be able to see that before, because I feel like a lot of kids don't have the opportunity really till they're after sophomore year or right before senior year starts to really get that hands-on aspect of like knowing. And by that time, if you haven't had an internship and you're civil or industrial, mechanical, whatever you are, you're still like not really sure if it's fully for you. But you got that experience early on.
Yeah, and I think it was crucial because it made me sit down and reanalyze everything about myself.
Yep.
I sat down and went home and I talked to my dad about it, because I literally tell my dad everything, because I guess he's like the biggest mentor right now. And I told him about everything that was going on, and he flat out told me, he said, if you don't enjoy it, I wouldn't waste your time.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, all right, that gives me enough courage. I'm going to go ahead and started doing personality tests and career tests, and I kept landing on it's funny, I kept landing on process engineering and all kinds of different fields that you and I would be applying for now.
Yeah.
And I went and talked to Michelle Poland, and she goes,
OG.
yeah, those are all industrial engineering. And I was like, all right, I'm going to change. It didn't even take me, there was no thinking to it. I was like, all right, I'm switching.
Let's do it.
And she said, okay, email Jack Bird.
Yep. And shout out to Jack.
Shout out to Jack Bird. And then that's where everything started, and I fell completely in love with it, everything. 200 and 220, like our introductory level classes. There were the first classes that I actually could sit down in and concentrate. It's always something I struggle with. Always. I love math. Never focus. Can't. Until they're actually doing an example problem, I can never focus.
That's one thing I noticed though, was that in class, like now compared to before the first class together, you do a lot of notes. I noticed one thing too is you are always asking questions. So I guess that really for people out there kind of struggling to pay attention in class, or like falling asleep in class or getting distracted, whatever. Like, I think you've found a lot of good ways to really keep your attention.
So this is kind of funny you brought this up. So my grades in college have fluctuated more than most people, and it's kind of funny to think about, and it's pathetic on my part, because I've had 2 semesters now where I've gotten above a 3.5.
Okay.
And then I've also had semesters where I've gotten below a 2.0.
Wow.
And
so yeah, you get the whole spectrum.
I have the entire spectrum.
Very interesting. And
what it is, and I mean, you talk about it now, you say about like how I focus and how I ask questions and highlight and blah, blah, blah. And once again, speaking to people that have the same issue that I do, I never went to a doctor my entire life for like ADHD or anything like that. I've always had a hard time focusing. So things that I've done since like me and James have met and the classes we've had, sat directly in the front row almost every single class.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I'm constantly engaged with the teacher, because I can have a conversation with somebody.
Yep.
And I can be engaged in the conversation. I cannot focus on the back of the classroom, and I will fall asleep.
That's a really good point. So I think a lot of people out there have this thing of like, oh, the people who always sit in the front are the nerds, or the people who are the smartest. And I think that's just really so true. Like, I know I sit, anyway, we sat multiple times together. We all sit in the front row. I mean, if you're in the front row, you could fall asleep technically, but if you do, your teacher's definitely gonna say something to you. Like, you could be distracted, you could be on your phone, but the odds are you probably won't be, because you don't want the teacher to say something to you. So I guess it's like a forced discipline kind of thing.
It is a forced discipline.
We sit in the front row because we're in class. We might as well use that time to actually learn and study.
Exactly.
And so by sitting in the front row, it's like this thing of having to pay attention.
It is, and if anybody ever has that problem where they don't want to be the nerd, you can go ahead and have fun making no money the rest of your life, because the people
cold out here, my man's cold blooded. It's true though. It's true.
The people that go out and try and do well in school are the ones that are going to be enjoying the rest of their life, while the people that do not try and do not and want to have fun while it's time to actually put in the work, they're the ones that are going to be spending all that time later in life putting back in that work.
Yeah. So I guess let's jump back a little then too. We talked about engineering. We talked about how you kind of ended up in industrial. Were you always going to come to WVU because it's a state school, it's cheaper? Did you ever look at Ohio State, Penn State, any other schools out there like that?
When I was in high school, I wanted to go to Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. And my teacher told me that I couldn't go.
So you told us an instance where your teacher...
This is a different teacher.
But so you still have 2 instances now where teachers kind of affected your path, right?
Oh.
So how did you told us how you responded the first time in terms of it didn't really make sense, but you were also a lot younger, so it didn't really phase you as much. How does it phase you now? When you're older and someone told you that, how did that affect you?
So I was a lot older. I think I was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And I told one of my teachers that it was the first teacher I had in like advanced placement classes, and he was
wow. So it wasn't okay.
He was a tough teacher.
It wasn't just like your gym teacher or someone. It was someone who was supposed to be one of the smarter.
Yeah, he was
people at the school.
extremely successful and extremely wealthy, and he told me that college was not a college that I wanted to go to, nor could I get into. And in retrospect, I probably could have, but if I would have went, I would have had probably about $120,000 in loans right now.
Yep.
And instead, I'm getting paid to go to college. So I'm actually really grateful to him, because if I would have done that, it would have completely changed my entire life.
I think that's a really good point. I'm glad we just touched on that, because I think there's a lot of kids out there that, and myself included, I always knew WVU was an option, but like everyone in my school went to WVU, mostly, probably 70% of the class. And I was like, do I really want to be that guy that just does the typical path, still goes to WVU? I'm sure it's the same way with your high school, being in West Virginia. And like I looked at Marquette, I looked at UVA, a few other schools, got accepted, but then it's like when I look at the numbers,
it didn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's like I can get the same degree, I'm gonna land basically the same job. There's really, in the world we live in today, it's very, obviously with your top Ivy League schools, Stanford, Harvard, whatever, there's a little bit of differentiation there. But if you weigh like the starting salaries that some of those kids probably come out with versus the amount we pay in tuition and the amount they pay in tuition,
big difference.
Like I think we actually come out on top.
Way
in the long
better.
Run.
In the long run, way better.
I think that's huge for people to realize going into college, is that even if you get into this very lucrative school, if it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to be able to go there when you come out,
there's no point.
Yeah, it's probably not really worth it. Stick to in-state, or it's different, if the colleges in your state don't have your degree or something like that.
Yeah, but then you can get the academic
in-state with the other state.
Yeah, what is it called?
Some waiver or something.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I was accepted in MIT,
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go to MIT versus WVU, but that's completely different.
But Ohio State versus Penn State versus WVU,
And Carnegie Mellon is a really
Carnegie Mellon would be a school that
I would have went to, but it's not worth it for me.
Yeah,
it's like
and me and you are the average Joe out there, right?
Yeah.
So we're the normal, like a lot of people out there making these decisions in senior year are pretty similar to us.
Oh yeah.
They might not have a 35 on their ACT. They might not have the best scores.
Exactly.
So they're not going to go into these Carnegie Mellon schools or like that, but they're still going to go into some state school.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I had zero guidance on this. I didn't have, like, none of my family went to college. I never.
So will you be the first? Will you be the first college graduate coming in May?
Yeah, first college.
Awesome, man! Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, like, my family isn't like known for being very academic.
Mm-hmm.
They're more known for being very versatile. I mean, my dad,
hands-on, blue collar.
Yeah, my dad could have went to college and got a degree way better than me because he's got way more drive.
Did he push you to go to college more?
I wasn't. He wanted, like, from day one, I was going to college.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that you need to think about, like, starting out. Like, if like, and for my kids, I'm going to make sure that they know how important education is.
Yeah, very important. So I guess we've talked about, college, kind of how you got there, a little bit about that. For those people who don't know, Colton's actually graduating here in a couple months in May. So that's super exciting. We just kind of touched on that. He'll be the first college graduate in his family. Huge milestone. Well, I guess a lot of people, 5, 10, 15, 20 years after college, I feel like a lot of people look back and say, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. If you could change one thing, looking back on your college experience right now, what would you change?
I would instill the mindset that I have now with learning freshman year. If I would have the same mindset that I have now with learning freshman year, I would have graduated at the top of my class. Easy. Okay. I'm not being arrogant. This is a fact for anybody that's in college.
Yep.
If you sit down, you pay attention, you put in the work, you will get a good grade.
I mean, I've watched that change.
Yeah.
In you, right? So just over 2 short years.
Like,
we've had a lot of classes together. I've noticed your grades have gone from B's and C's to A's and B's and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there shouldn't have, like, I got a C in anthropology.
Just a class, easy, GC,
Yeah, I never paid attention, didn't care about the test. I didn't study one time, not once.
If you could give one piece of advice to anyone listening right now, what would it be? It could be about college, life, academic, family, relationships, whatever. Something that really is kind of stuck with you.
Ooh, I got a good one for this. This is something that I think about almost daily. and it's something that helps me almost daily. The number one rule for me in my life is if I'm not enjoying it and there's no benefit out of doing it and not enjoying it, I'm not going to do it.
So every decision, everything you do in life is based off of, does this thing make me happy? And that's it.
Yeah. So like even, okay, so I mean, there's going to be tasks every day that, you know, they're not going to necessarily make you happy, but the outcome of doing that task inevitably is going to lead to more happiness for you.
Yep.
I hate doing thermo homework, but I have to graduate to be happy.
So you use, if there is something that doesn't make you happy, you kind of spin it, right? You spin it to seeing the positive outcome of what it brings you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, another way to look at it is, like, things that I don't enjoy or that I would do. Okay, so sleeping something that's a big time consumption of my life. But if I could do something better that's going to make me happier in the end,
and a little less sleep,
I'm going to do it. Something that makes me really happy, and this is kind of nerdy, is getting a test back and getting a good grade on it.
Yeah.
That genuinely makes me happy. I don't know if it's because of like being in school my entire life and seeing things like that, but it honestly makes me happy. I don't like to study, I hate reading, and I hate doing homework. But I do it because I know inevitably that I'm going to end up being a lot happier because of it. I've been through the times with the bad grades. Yeah. And those were the exact times that I was doing other things than doing homework. Sleeping. Or working out for 3 hours and honestly only doing 45 minutes of work. You know, just being completely unproductive. But I've changed that.
Yeah.
And now I can get a workout in an hour. I can study for 2 or 3 hours, and I know that when I go and take that test, I'm going to sit back and go, yep,
nice,
I did good.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's one thing that people always have to look at. Don't look at it as another mundane task in your daily routine. Look at it as something that's inevitably leading you to better happiness.
So, guys, you heard it first from the big man himself, Colton Tasker. Really appreciate him coming out today. You know, like he said, do things that ultimately make you happy. And if things you're doing really don't make you happy right away, figure out a way to twist that so that you actually find true happiness in it.
Yep.
Peace.